how to get the incentives, service, and monitoring. We take care of everything.
Doing the right thing means bringing EV car chargers to Alabama. Let us help you with your EV charging plan.
Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
All right, with that, we're off. We're running another brand new live edition, Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. It is our Tuesday edition. Back in studio are we for the next 2 hours. 256-576-4977. That is the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. You want to join the show, you want to join all the fun, all you got to do is give us a call. We got a lot of good stuff to get through. It is SEC opener weekend for a few teams. Not everybody in the league will open up SEC play this weekend. In the conference, if you look around the league, right here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone, you will have Alabama and Vanderbilt, Missouri and Auburn, Florida and Tennessee, Arkansas and Texas A&M. Those are your conference matchups this weekend. And, I mean, really a lot of eyes are going to be on that 10th-ranked Arkansas, 23rd-ranked Texas A&M matchup in Jerry's World. That'll be a big one, as well as that 20th-ranked Florida, 11th-ranked Tennessee matchup there in Neyland Stadium. Those will be big. Those will be the two big ones probably in the league.
Yeah, no question about it. We'll see if Florida can get up off the mat. They have not played well for the last 2 weeks, even though they won against South Florida this past Saturday night. Anthony Richardson has played horrifically bad. He's, from the neck up, been making a lot of mistakes, turning the ball over. He can't do that against Tennessee. Tennessee has had their foot to the pedal and to the throttle and been scoring a ton of points, playing pretty good defense in 2 of the 3 games. I know they gave up some things against Pitt, but I still thought, systematically and the way they tackled looked better than a year ago. So now Keaton Slovis getting hurt had a lot to do that. But comparing Keaton Slovis and Anthony Richardson right now is like comparing a Rolls Royce and a Pinto. There's not really a whole lot of different. You can't really compare the two. Richardson's got really good athleticism and running ability, but can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. So he's not really throwing the ball that well. Slovis was throwing the ball well in the first half. They had a 10-point lead on Tennessee at one time, 17-7. It looked like they were driving to even take a 3-score lead, but that's where the game kind of turned. And so to Tennessee's credit and Hendon Hooker's, who I think is still one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the SEC, I'd still probably vote him second in my opinion, even though I will say this, Stetson Bennett, you might even say is number 1 right now. I know Bryce had the moment against Texas, but definitely the top 4 to me in the league are Bryce, Stetson, Hendon, and then, of course, K.J. Jefferson to me. I think that's your top 4 in the SEC. But certainly those teams are all playing well, and the Vols, are a significant favorite in this game, and they should be. I think they've looked like the much better football team. Now, we've heard about the voodoo, and we've talked about 16 out of 17 for the Gators and things of that nature. But this Tennessee team, they're playing at a very high level. It's in Neyland Stadium, and if Richardson were playing better football, I would say it's probably a pick'em game, and right. Florida would have a shot. But he's not playing very well. And we don't know if Jack Miller's healthy enough to come off the bench yet for Florida to try to give them a different dimension and give them more of a passing game. But again, I just think right now Tennessee's in a really good spot, and I'd pick them by double figures certainly. With what we've seen from the first 3 weeks from both teams, and certainly Florida got the big upset win over Utah early. But the bottom line is the Pac-12 is not very good in my opinion, and Richardson played well for one game, but it's kind of interesting once you get into conference play, and he did against Kentucky. They'd watched a lot of film, they sat on some things, and I just think he's has not progressed as a passer, and he's a spectacular athlete, but right now he's limiting Billy Napier's offense. And when Jack Miller, the transfer from Ohio State's healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a shot.
Matt Hayes proposed this question. Not a question, but he wrote a little article, and this is how he entitled it. And see if this is true or not. He says, Florida's owned the rivalry, which we all know they have. And he put, Tennessee owns the future. Does Tennessee own the future of this rivalry?
Well, everybody knows what a big fan of Matt Hayes I am, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, buffoonery at its finest. But I don't know if I'm ready to say that. I mean, look, man. So are you already saying that Billy Napier's not going to be able to bring in good enough players to win? I mean, yeah. He's already putting together a really solid recruiting class. I'm not sure that I'm ready to write off Billy Napier, that he has no hope in this rivalry. Tennessee, just a year ago, came into the season with the most losses to their roster as far as transfer portal goes. They were, it was said.
They were a sieve on defense last year.
Well, they weren't very good on defense, but
no.
But what I'm saying is, it was thought, and this is what they did, that if they won 7 games, they would have totally overachieved, which they did. I'm not ready just because they pulled 7 wins out and then they're off to a good start this year to say they're getting ready to own the future against the Gators. I mean, Florida, now if Clown Mullen was still there, maybe that's the case because he couldn't recruit his shadow. And but if Billy Napier recruits well, I would just say it's going to be a very competitive rivalry. It'll be a rivalry because right now, look, man, Tennessee hadn't gone out there and won it, okay? Everybody sort of just – ball game, just like Nick Saban saying already, they're already saying the game's over. And Florida's won 16 out of 17 with Mo, Larry, and Curley in the coach's box.
That's the thing. If you're saying Tennessee is going to own the future, they got to start winning.
They've lost 16 out of 17.
There
Hayes.
you go.
He obviously he's a Gator, so it probably pained him to write that. He's just trying to get a reaction too, though, in my opinion. But you can't say that with any kind of certainty. What I would say you could say is this looks like it's going to turn into a true rivalry. Rivalry is when the other team wins every now and then. It's not Michigan, Ohio State right now because Michigan won one time. So what? They lost 15 in a row before that. Alabama's beat Tennessee 15 years in a row. Alabama's beat Arkansas 15 years in a row. That's not a rivalry. That's one-sided. Now, Alabama's going to have, a hell of a, matchup with both Arkansas and Tennessee, and both those, programs are going to have a chance against Alabama this year, no question. Both of them are hosting Alabama, and both of them are playing well so far.
Yeah, by the way, that Alabama-Arkansas game, a 2:30 kickoff, by the way.
But I'm just saying, because Florida has taken 16 out of 17 over the Vols, that's not a rivalry. That's owning somebody. And so I wouldn't just write Florida off, in the future. Now, I do think Florida is a significant underdog in this game.
9.5 is what Vegas has them at.
No question. And I would say I would put it double figures. But even if they win the game significantly this year, that doesn't mean in the future that they're going to own it. I just think it means it could end up being a rivalry again. Just like Michigan and Ohio State might be now that Harbaugh and khaki pants finally broke through. Maybe it's going to be a rivalry. It's not a rivalry when you lose every year. That means you're just somebody's bitch and you're getting the hell beat out of you.
Florida has won each of the Okay, Florida has won each of the last 4 matchups by 12 points or more. So there you go. And you're right, 16 of the last 17, 5-game winning streak in the series, and have won each of the last 4 by 12 or more.
Yeah, I mean, and that's with, again, Clown Mullen coaching.
Yeah.
Well, see, this reminds me of when Butch Jones, the champion of life, had a couple of good recruiting classes and won 9 games in the Tennessee. And I believe he did in that time frame. He's probably the last one to beat Florida, and they thought he was going to turn this around. And he beat Georgia, remember, on that last second when Kirby first got there. But it was fool's gold. Tennessee didn't, continue that. Right. It fell apart. We'll see if Heupel can keep, building this thing. I'm still not sold on them defensively. But with the way Anthony Richardson's playing, I mean, how is Florida going to score enough to win this game unless they run the football, unless they control the clock? Richardson, can use his legs, their backs. They have run the ball pretty well. But again, let's see what happens. But when I'm not going to say Tennessee's going to own the future when they haven't even won the game in 5 years. I mean, come on, man. That guy's the king of moronic takes. He's an idiot.
Pat from Tuscaloosa with us on the phone lines this morning. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning. Hey,
Good morning,
Drew,
Pat.
Hey, Drew, you got to understand that Billy Napier seems to be trending for the number one player in the country, Tremonti McClain.
Well, they might be. I mean, but we'll see if they do lose significantly to Tennessee. If they end up with 5-6 losses, that may help Alabama in that regard. But we'll see. I know Alabama and Miami are in the middle of it with McClain. But right now, I would agree with you, Pat. If they can stack some more wins, I think Billy and his staff have put themselves in position with that young man.
Yeah, and I hate that. But hey, well, tell me about over in Oxford, Mississippi. It's getting a little bit, making me a little nervous over there in comparison to anybody else we played.
Yeah, that's the question. Are you ready to go all in on the deep end on Ole Miss? Wins against Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech. Are you buying in on what Lane Kiffin has done with the transfer portal and getting everybody on the same page?
We'll see in SEC play.
He's got a running back.
He's got two good ones. He's got Zach Evans and Quinshawn Judkins. So they look like they're very good so far. Kudos to them. Still not sold on their passing game, but they've been running the heck out of the football. And I'm not surprised they whitewashed Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is terrible. Jeff Collins is on the last legs of his journey there, I think. But again, they've passed the eye test so far, Pat.
Yeah. One last quick question on the young man we got yesterday. I really, really liked what he said about that Coach Saban picking him was an honor. That it was that what he said about coming to Alabama from a Texas perspective was I was totally impressed with him. What do you think?
Oh yeah, Jordan Renaud. He's got from Tyler Legacy. He's got the mindset you need. He's a relentless competitor. I think that's why they won out over Oklahoma. I have criticized Freddie Roach some, but I'll give him credit. He and Holman Wiggins, I think, did a great job with this kid. They pegged him early. They found him when they signed Jamarian Miller, and Jamarian looks like he's definitely got a bright future.
Wow.
He's a guy that we've talked to Joseph Hastings here on Talkin' Ball and on the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio, and he's they got beat the other day 69-0 by Longview with Jalen Hale, who will make his decision in Wednesday afternoon, and yet even though they were down that much, Renaud was still going hard, was relentless. And Joseph said he was the best player he had seen so far in his travels on the road in person. Said he had several tackles, a sack. He plays with relentless competitive fire, and that I've heard that's the same thing you saw out of him on the camp circuit. That's why I've wanted Jordan Renaud throughout this. When I heard about kind of his makeup, I know Alabama lost Kelby Collins. He's a good player, no doubt. Billy Napier and their staff did a good job, but to me, I'll just say this. I know they're continuing to recruit Peter Woods. Certainly, he's still committed to Clemson. But if Alabama ends up with a potential 6-man defensive line class, right now they have Edric Hill, really solid player from North Kansas City, no doubt about that. They've got Hunter Osborne. They've got Renaud now. If they get a James Smith, if they get a David Hobbs from North Carolina, and if they and Keon Keeley, then I think they can. That even without Peter Woods and Kelby Collins in state, that's probably still the number one D-line class in the country. So I got to give Alabama credit. It's what I've said, Pat. It's sometimes even if you lose kids that you want, it's how you react to that. And certainly Alabama is in the mix with David Hobbs, who's now been reclassified as a 5-star. I think Tennessee's also in that mix. more than North Carolina, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting to track the recruitments of some of these guys as time goes on. And with James Smith and Russaw, they were heavily, and they still are heavily interested in Auburn, but that staff seems to be on borrowed time.
Yeah, it's a dumpster fire down there. And hey, have a blessed day, Drew. You're the best.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it.
Pat from Tuscaloosa with us, 256-576-4977. That's how you can join the show and join the program on this Tuesday morning. So we've just been talking some SEC football. It is interesting to look at the Ole Miss Rebels. By the way, though, Missouri and Auburn, Missouri 6.5. Missouri is a 6.5 point underdog at Auburn on Saturday. Vanderbilt and Alabama. Alabama is a 38-point favorite against the Commodores at home on Saturday. Texas A&M is a 2.5 point favorite against Arkansas on Saturday, and Ole Miss is a 20.5 point favorite over Tulsa at home on Saturday. Just some of those numbers. Jason's with us this morning on the phone lines. Good morning, Jason.
Hey, good morning, fellas. How y'all doing?
Morning, Jason.
Hey, I got one for you. And you know Harson's going to get fired. I mean, if they let him stay around and he happens to defeat Alabama, they'll give him a 4-year contract and they'll have to fire him again. But wouldn't it be better to fire him and go ahead and bring in a coach since recruiting, you got a signing period December 16th?
Well, I mean, I think he'll be dismissed before the end of the season, Jason. If things go poorly in the next few weeks, they have a bye coming up in mid-October where something could happen. Or, if they get just totally mauled by Georgia, which I think right now, good Lord, I'd put the point spread at 30.
People are calling Georgia the greatest team ever.
I heard again. Peter Burns. Peter Burns. He's already crowned their ass and said they're the best team in history. Just like Tim Brandblow, who said that in 2011 that that LSU team, once they beat Alabama in the game of the century, was the greatest team in history. Alabama had no shot to beat them in a rematch in their backyard in New Orleans. Blah, 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 blah. And we all know what happened. Alabama beat the ever-loving snot out of them.
Yes.
Hey, Drew, who would you make a favorite to be the Auburn next coach? Would you go with Kevin Steele or Hugh Freeze?
I would probably go Hugh Freeze, but but we'll see. I
wouldn't put any money on Kevin Steele. I
wouldn't dismiss
Auburn,
it just because of Jimmy Rain and those guys, because that's who they wanted in the first place. We'll see what kind of year Miami has, but it also is going to depend on the interest from other coaches. But I do think Hugh Freeze would be interested in it.
What about Lane Kiffin, like we talked about yesterday?
I know John Talty said Lane Kiffin. I've got a feeling that probably wouldn't happen. I think I know everybody knows he likes to poke at Saban and all this stuff, but I don't think he'd have to have his livelihood depend on being able to outmaneuver Nick Saban in the state of Alabama. I don't really think. Now, I would have thought he would have been more interested. I heard he was interested in Miami and Florida, but they weren't interested in him. So I would doubt the Auburn thing, but I wouldn't doubt Hugh Freeze. He's had a daughter that went to school there. I know he wants to get back on the biggest stage. He certainly has the history of beating Nick Saban. I think he is an outstanding coach. He's done a great job at Liberty. Hugh Freeze would be the guy that I would watch, and I just think that would be kind of a natural fit because I think just personally that they're going to still go after an offensive guy because right now they're that Harsin was supposed to be that, but I just think he's a bad fit. I'll just say this. Say Harsin went to Arizona State. I'm not saying he's going to, but
right.
I think he could have a competitive program out there. They've got a lot of connections out on the West Coast. I just think Harsin,
expectations are different at Arizona State.
When Nick Saban came to LSU, he didn't have any Southern ties either. But I'll tell you what he did have. He had been in the Big Ten. He'd been in Power 5 big-time football. Harsin had not. The only big-time place Harsin had coached was as an OC for a very short period of time under Mac Brown at Texas. And so he had never been in a big-time SEC-type football, and I think he and his coaching staff have been over their heads from the jump.
Yeah, Hugh Freeze, I mean, he's great at cheating. And Auburn has got to pick up a recruiting. I mean, they got a Valdosta State roster.
Well,
I mean,
they I don't know if it's that bad, but they definitely don't have enough difference makers. That's for sure.
They have a Boise State roster.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
They're recruiting like he recruited at Boise State, and that is, and the same thing. You see a lot of schools do this. You know, that they're content with this. They want to develop the guys every 3-4 years. You're going to have a really good team. And, you know, you throw in a couple transfer portal guys, and every 2-3 years you have a great team that can contend. Whereas in the SEC, if you are one of those upper echelon teams, you have to be good every year.
I mean, well,
not great, but you have to be good every year.
Well, he would even at Boise he was going like 9-3, 10-2, and even at Auburn, that's not going to be good enough at times. They're going to want to win the SEC West. They're going to want to get to Atlanta, and they want to compete with Alabama. That's why, you know, Gus kept the job as long as he did, because he beat Saban 3 times. And that's why it would have been so huge for him to beat Alabama last year. If he beats Alabama, then all is forgiven. But he didn't, and everything fell apart, and they were panicking because of the recruiting. And then trying to undercut him, and I totally agree with John Talty, it totally screwed them in the transfer portal because kids didn't want to come over there because they didn't even know if Harsin was going to be the coach. And so that's why their roster's weak right now.
Well, think about this. I mean, look how bad their roster is going to be now because we are talking like he is already out. Other shows are talking like he is already out.
Whatever happens, man, if they dismiss him, whoever the new coach is, whether it's Hugh Freeze, if it was Lane Kiffin, whoever.
The recruiting has already been set back
Well,
already.
The high school is, but they're going to have to attack the portal like nobody's business. Yeah. You're going to have to bring in 15 to 20 guys in the portal.
I mean, when you bring in a transfer quarterback and he's third string, I mean, you wasted a transfer right there. That's the spot you have wasted.
Yeah, I mean, and so far, and you have to look at it, all 3 of those quarterbacks were brought in by Harsin, okay? And so that's the shape that they're in, because they brought in Finley right after they got there. And then they brought in Robbie Ashford, before spring last year. So all these QBs are Harsin's, and right now since they've got boat anchor quarterbacks, they don't have a very good offense, and their offensive line isn't very good. Now that's not all their fault. They tried to attract some transfer offensive linemen, but again, I think it just really hamstrung them when people didn't know if they were going to be around or not.
Right. All right. Well, y'all have a good morning.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Let's get that break in. That's some good stuff there. It's going to be a fun time Saturday on Rocky Top. Game day is going to be there. Vince Ferrara will be with us next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
McCurry Motors is your car and van rental headquarters. You can rent the vehicle you need today. Family in town, sporting event, church function, no matter what your need, McCurry Motors has you covered with a wide selection of cars and vans available for rent. They have 12-passenger Mercedes Sprinter vans, 12-passenger Ford Transit vans, 15-passenger Ford Transit vans, and 15-passenger Chevrolet Express vans. They have 2 locations, Highway 72 in Athens or Max Luther Drive in Huntsville.
Are you in the market for a recreational vehicle? Do you want to get out and see more of this beautiful country? Well, imagine hearing the laughter of your little ones enjoying gooey s'mores by a cozy campfire and making lasting memories with your friends and family from the comfort of a new camper. We can make your dreams come true at Hall's RV. With over 15 years in the camping business, we know how to get our customers into the perfect camper. We have several models and floor plans here for you to choose from, both new and used. We're family owned and operated with fantastic deals and great service. Everyone wants to work with people they can trust, so come on down to Hall's RV and get the deal of a lifetime. We'll treat you right and get you on the road in the camper of your dreams. Visit us on Highway 431 in Albertville. Hall's RVs, where we sell fun. Or see us on the web at www.hallsrvsales.com.
What's better than Valley Equipment Rental? 2 Valley Equipment Rentals, and that's just what we have now. The original on the South Memorial Parkway between Drake and Airport Road, and their second location on North Memorial Parkway just north of Winchester Road. Valley Equipment is locally owned and has more skid steers, excavators, and lifts than anyone in the area, plus all the small tools that you need to get the job done like a pro. And if you are a pro, you need to check out the new North location now because Valley Equipment has what you need. Learn more at valleyequipmentrents.com.
At Bryant Bank, we believe your goals are worth chasing, and every step along the way is worth celebrating. From your hopes for the future to the challenges that keep you up at night, we're here for you. Bryant Bankers put care into action to help you live legendary by stepping up when you need us most and doing what's right even when no one is watching. Come experience a local bank whose people greet you by name and treat you like family. Bryant Bank, member FDIC.
One of the best-kept golf secrets in the Tennessee Valley is Cherokee Ridge. Cherokee Ridge truly offers golf at a higher level with immaculate greens set against a spectacular Appalachian backdrop. This 18-hole championship course takes every advantage of rolling hills, whispering woods, lakes, and streams. Interested in becoming a member? Their membership plans feature affordable options for couples, families, and individuals. This Friday, get the latest zone deal, $75 for a round of golf and cart for 2 to Cherokee Ridge. Championship quality, affordable prices. No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
This is Attorney Tommy Sinyard on behalf of Sinyard Law, and again proud to be a sponsor of All Things Football here on ESPN Radio. My son Bart and I started our own law firm July 1 and are very proud and excited to be bringing you our 50 years of collective national award-winning injury trial law experience. Check us out on the web, sinyardlaw.com.
Sinyard Law, nationally recognized, locally respected.
When you call most roofing companies, all you'll hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming. At Fleming Roofing and Restoration, we're focused on your needs, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement. Folks around here have trusted Fleming since 1965 for all their residential and commercial roofing needs. And as the area's storm damage experts, Fleming knows all the ins and outs of the insurance claims process. Log on FlemingHSV.com to schedule your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
This is Steve Moulton from The Drive. Join us this afternoon from 5 to 7 with Wes Neighbors and me. Now back to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Coming up on Saturday, we got a pair of ranked teams opening up conference play. Tennessee and Florida meeting in Knoxville. And this will be the 27th visit for Florida. It's the 52nd all-time meeting between the two programs. And Drew, do you think it's? I mean, I know there's plenty of excitement around the Tennessee squad, obviously, because of what they've accomplished so far. Billy Napier had a lot of confidence after that Utah win, but maybe not so much after that Kentucky loss and then that scare last week against South Florida. Had Florida come in and won all three of those, we probably would have the same level of excitement about this as we had back in the Philip Fulmer, Steve Spurrier days. But still, I think this matchup has plenty of intrigue.
Somewhat, but I think Tennessee's playing much better football right now than Florida. And I think Tennessee is certainly hungry to reassert themselves in this rivalry. And who better than to talk with than he's with the 991 The Sports Animal in Knoxville, Tennessee. He's part of the IMG radio network for the Tennessee Volunteers. He wears many hats for WNML, and that is Vince Farrar. He's with us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Vince, it's great to have you back on in Huntsville. You were Drew and Scott. How are you?
I am good. Hope you guys are doing well. Appreciate you having me as always.
Yep, Vince, no doubt. And Tennessee, nearly a 9.5-point favorite. I would have them a double-digit favorite in this game just based upon what we've seen out of the Vols and what we saw in that second-half rally at Pitt. And you know, Florida's last 2 outings has not looked good, including against a good Kentucky team. But I know I don't think Tennessee's going to take anything for granted here with the way the series has gone. But the Vols in Neyland with a great shot to reestablish and reassert itself and probably get the biggest win of the Heupel era coming up Saturday.
Yeah, I think so. The opportunity is there for them to do that. You mentioned the point spread. It started out, I believe, about 3.5, and then people were saying it was at 11 at one point yesterday. So maybe that's come back down a little bit. That's a mighty hefty jump in a point spread in a matter of 24 hours or so. So, I think it's about right, though. Florida, to me, is a flawed team that I expected going into the year. I admit that Utah game really impressed me from what my expectations were.
Right.
In their toughness, their resiliency to bounce back when things weren't going well. Anthony Richardson protected the football, and it's been much different the last couple of games. Whereas Tennessee, yes, they haven't had the level of competition with 2 of their games, but they've absolutely housed those 2 really bad teams. And as you guys know, not everyone in those positions where they're out-batching opponents is taking care of business like that. They're kind of messing around with them. And there was examples in the league just last weekend. So that there's obviously a lot of residual benefits to that. You get guys off the field and not have them accumulate extra snaps when you're going to need them late in the year. You overall keep guys healthy, although there are a couple of guys that are banged up that I'm sure we'll talk about here in a minute. But you just don't mess around, give anyone any hope, and you handle it with maturity. I thought the Pitt win too on the road, they had some adversity in that, and doing that on the road and having their defense play a little bit, come through and play even keyer role than their offense, where their offense had sputtered a little bit for a while, but then their offense came through in the clutch when they needed them at the end of the game in overtime. So I've been impressed with where Tennessee's at right now, and the pollsters have moved them up quite a bit, up to the number 11, at least in the AP poll.
Yeah, one of the question marks coming into the year was the defense. How much improved? Josh Heupel said this defense will be improved. They put some needs there to get better pass rushing, to get off on third down. And their conversion rate is better. I mean, way better, almost 20% better on getting off the field from last year. Their points per game is better than last year. I know you take away that Pitt game and the opponents probably are not that great, but still Tennessee was giving up points to teams last year they shouldn't have given up to. That's got to be an improvement.
Yeah, 100%. And that was going to be my first point, Scott, you could point to the competition, but it was looking ugly against that level of competition last year as well. And that overall has not happened. So you're seeing them connect the dots. They're getting the pressure on the quarterback, which is not exposing them as much on the back end. And actually, Tim Banks has to feel pretty good about his back end, because he's still sending blitzes and being very aggressive. Now, they're not relying on just the blitz to generate pass rush. I think against Pitt, they had 26 quarterback pressures, which is the most they've had in a very long time. I think 11 tackles for loss in the last game. So they don't have necessarily a superstar in that group, but they have a couple of guys that are playing at a pretty high level, and it's the guys they needed them to. And that's Byron Young on that Leo spot, and Tyler Barron at the defensive end spot. Those guys are on the field together this year as opposed to being at the same position last year. And they're both healthy and in their second year under Banks' system. So a number of other guys are playing well. They got Juwan Mitchell back last week, the Texas transfer who's been banged up. And you can see they have more depth. They have more guys they can go to. Again, bigger tests to come, but I do think that they've come together and been a little bit better defensively, and that's going to be the key for them. Like we said before the year, they're going to add wins. It's going to be because they've made some strides on defense, even though they don't have to be great. They just have to be okay on that side of the ball.
And we're talking to Vince Ferrara, Sports Radio WNML, Knoxville, Tennessee. Give us the update injury-wise. How healthy is Tennessee headed into this deal?
Yeah, it's a great question, Drew, and it's one that Josh Heupel, much like a lot of coaches, doesn't like to
Subterfuge.
To give out that information. Yeah. Now, Tennessee gives us a lot of interviews. Doesn't mean they give up any of the injury information, but it sounds like that Cedric Tillman's injury is not serious. He was able to put some weight on it. He walked off the field. He looked a little bit better as he got to the sidelines, and obviously they don't make any injured players available either. But Josh Heupel was asked about it yesterday. He said it's Monday. We'll see. I think it's probably one of those game time decisions type of thing. It's good. Obviously, it's extremely good for Tennessee if it's not a serious injury, because as much as they've developed depth at wide receiver, he's a difference maker and one of the best in the country. So I don't want to hear about, we'll be okay because we got this guy. He makes everybody better when he's on the field. So the other one is Jabari Small, who it sounds like from Heupel's postgame that they just held him out as a precaution, that he was okay. He looked fine on the sideline as he was watching the backups in the game as they were housing Akron. So, but he's also had a history of injury too. Mm-hmm. So, okay, maybe he'll be good to go, but is he going to leave after the first or second hit? So they're not super deep at that running back position. So those are a couple for Tennessee. And Florida has a few of their own as well. And Ventrell Miller, who didn't play, probably their best defensive player, Michael Tarquin, or the right tackle, didn't play last week against my USF Bulls. And then they have their long snapper. They haven't had their corner and Jaden Hill. So that they're banged up also. But yeah, Tillman would make a huge difference in this game if he's able to play. I guess we'll find out on Saturday.
Last year, Hendon Hooker kind of burst onto the scene, I guess you could say, because he took over for Joe Milton, and then the rest, we know what he accomplished last year. But what have you seen from Hendon Hooker this year that is improvement along the way, or how have you seen his game kind of improve through these first few games?
Well, he continues to protect the football. I mean, it is insane how he doesn't even come close to turning the ball over. Like, most quarterbacks will throw a ball in the coverage and a DB will drop it and you're like, wow, I got away with that one. Like, you don't even really see that from Hendon Hooker. And but he's able to do that without playing ultra conservative either. Like, I talked to him about before the season where, because he knows the offense inside and out, he knows what everybody's role is and where they're supposed to be. He has a better understanding of a better ability to be able to manipulate defenders with his eyes and his body language, that he's going to make some tighter window throws. And he's been able to do that without putting the ball in harm's way. It's crazy. Since he took over, he only has 3 interceptions total as a quarterback at Tennessee, and 2 since he became a starter, with like 42 touchdowns, something like that, since he became a starter. It's ridiculous. So I think the one thing, so his better understanding of what the coaches want and still protecting the football, those are the positives. The one thing that we've seen early in games, first couple of drives of the games, is he's been a little hyped up and he's been a little high on his throws, haven't seen quite the accuracy early in ball games. So that's something to kind of look out for. Is he too juiced for this game? Is there a game-changing play that comes early? Is one of those rare turnovers happen early in that game if he fails a throw or something? And how does he respond to if he is to turn the ball over, because he has protected the ball really well? So I expect him, because of his demeanor, to be fine even if it does happen. But that would be the one little thing that you would say that is something to keep an eye on. But look, he's been phenomenal in the second quarter, where they were outscored last year in the second quarter. They're just destroying everybody in the second quarter this year. So he's settling in. It's just a little bit of a slow start on his standards.
Yeah, the second quarter was huge, and that comeback against Pitt, no doubt about that, Vince. And but defensively, though, Jeremy Banks is playing like an All-American so far once again.
Yeah, and they need him to. And look, he's benefiting from the front seven doing a good job, because you're seeing him come clean through those A gaps behind the line, and tracking guys down sideline to sideline. That's another I mentioned Young and Barron. Banks is right there among their best players. McCullough and Flowers are two veteran safeties. Those are their 5 most known commodities on defense that they needed to rely on, and all of them are playing on a really high level right now, and that's exactly what they needed, while there are other positions that they're still trying to develop and get guys settled in. Until those come along, you needed your known commodities to come through, and they have. And Banks is right there among them. He's also not having those boneheaded plays that he had before, where he'll have unnecessary personal foul penalties and hurting his team. Speaking of penalties, that's another one little thing you can kind of point to with this team. I think it's 24 penalties in 3 games. That's a big number. They had the fight with Jimmy Callaway, although they didn't classify it as a fight. Reserve wide receiver. So, that's one thing is with the emotion of this game, does Florida see on tape that they might be able to bait Tennessee into maybe some reaction and some penalties? We'll see. But that's kind of a high number, and that's kind of been something with Josh Heupel. He's had a little bit of a high penalty total in some games, but at least Banks hasn't been having those kind of personal foul penalties. He's played clean and smart, and looks a little bit better in pass coverage, although that's an area that I think teams still feel like they can try to attack him in.
Vince Ferrara joining us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, helping us preview this Tennessee-Florida matchup. It's exciting. Game day is coming to Knoxville, Vince. Have you heard who the celebrity game day picker might be?
I did hear, and I think you know the answer to that. And that's only going to make.
I just wanted to make sure I was right.
Yeah. That's only can't wait to hear the reaction from our callers today. I didn't hear it yesterday, but
Steve Spurrier, by the way, is the celebrity guest picker.
He's also from Johnson City, Tennessee.
Yeah,
we all know where his bread's buttered.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know ESPN. They're like, oh, he covers both bases. No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. Exactly. No, he doesn't. Give me a break.
I know what the reaction is going to be, and probably already has on social media. It's, okay, we finally get game day here for the first time since 2016, and then they do that to us. Like that's what the calls we're going to get today. ESPN hates us and all this other stuff.
No Kenny Chesney.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it'll spice it up for sure. But and then who knows what kind of signs you're going to get for that. So they're all working on that this week too. But checker kneeling is another thing they're doing this weekend. So I mean, it's insane how excited people are. And Josh Heupel was talking about the Vol Walk for Akron last week was the best he's experienced. He's never seen anything like it. And that was for Akron. They actually sold out a non-conference game first time since when Baker Mayfield and Oklahoma were here. I think it was 2016. Typically, those kind of games, fans aren't coming out for that. And for them to not only sell out, but then most of the stadium was full. I'd say Jimmy Himes' estimate was 90-ish thousand. That's a lot for Akron when you know you're going to house them. So that kind of shows the excitement for this team, regardless of who, what, when, where. There's some belief here, and it's incredible how far that's come since they hired Josh Heupel.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because they have a bye coming up. If they get a big win over Florida, then you head to Baton Rouge, and then, of course, we know what's coming after that, and that's hosting Alabama, which if both these teams are undefeated at that time, and Alabama's got 2 tests of their own, Alabama has to face Arkansas on the road and then Texas A&M at home. That's going to be really interesting if it's a battle of unbeatens at that point, Vince.
Yeah, and it will only spice things up. I mean, there's obviously still a gap between Alabama, Georgia, and everybody else, including Tennessee, but it would be fun in that scenario. But you can kind of play that game with a number of these up-and-coming teams with the Alabamas and the Georgias, and you'd like it to be a higher profile, maybe battle of undefeated. People have mentioned that with Kentucky and Ole Miss coming up. Kentucky and Georgia moving forward. Tennessee and Georgia will be tougher because there's Alabama in between and Kentucky before they get to Georgia. But if Tennessee and Alabama are undefeated at that point, it's only going to give Tennessee fans more hope that this is the year that they can beat them. And whether they do or not, it'll be so much fun for college football, for this area, for the league. And this league continues to deliver, even outside of Alabama, Georgia. We know those are the best teams, but everybody else still brings so much to the table. It's really cool.
Well, we're going to be absolutely following you guys' coverage. Let everybody know how they can follow you and you guys continuing to for the build-up for this CBS game, Tennessee hosting the Florida Gators, looking to end this 5-game losing streak and to win for only the second time in 18 tries, but it would be so significant for Tennessee and set them up coming out of their bye for some big-time anticipated matchups. But we always appreciate the time. Let everybody know how to follow your work.
Yeah, thanks. Sure, appreciate it. It's at Vince Sports on Twitter, VINCE Sports, and then that same handle on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channel as well. Our station on social media, it's Sports Animal 991. Our website, 991thesportsanimal.com. You can check out all the interviews every day. We're on campus getting interviews. And Jimmy Himes and I are doing 3 podcasts a week now together.
Nice.
Where we're looking back on the SEC, previewing Tennessee, and then we do a post-game wrap-up together as well. So you can find all of that on our website as well. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you,
Thanks, Vince.
Thanks, guys.
Let's get that break in. Hour 1. We'll wrap it up next. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Businesses don't run on automation or algorithms alone. What powers businesses are your people and the people they serve. At Cintas, your dedicated service reps understand what you need to help you keep your employees feeling safe, comfortable, and performing their best. So your business can too. For workwear, essential cleaning products, first aid and safety supplies, and fire protection services, visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
AVIQ.
Who is AVIQ?
AVIQ is audiovisual the intelligent way, where we put our IQ to work for your AV needs. With more than 100 years combined experience in audio, video, and automation, our team of experts is dedicated to one thing: helping you discover technological solutions that make your home special. Once you experience a game or a movie on one of our state-of-the-art home theater systems, you may never leave the house again. AVIQ can build the entire system for you or provide the quality components if you're a do-it-yourselfer. But AVIQ is more than just home theater and state-of-the-art sound systems. We offer a variety of control options for home technology. Energy efficiency, heightened security, and improved quality of life are all attainable through the automation of home systems. Intuitive and user-friendly control is our main priority in designing a system that meets your needs. Don't just take our word for it. You need to see it to believe it. Come visit us at our state-of-the-art showroom on University, just east of Jim and Nick's, across from AT&T, or visit aviqhsv.com.
I'm attorney Gary Lackey. You know, you'll hear people say we're like a family, but here at the Lackey Law Firm, that's really true, not just a saying.
I'm Justin Lackey. With my father and my sister, we have a special connection to each other. I'm Jennifer Lackey. At the Lackey Law Firm, when we take on your case, you become part of our family. You really do.
And we'll always do whatever it takes to get everything you deserve.
If you're injured, you worry about getting well, not about paperwork or insurance companies or figuring out how to get to your lawyer's office. I'll come to you.
We worry about your case so you don't have to.
When you've been injured, we know that your case is probably the biggest thing going on in your life. More important than almost anything else.
And it's important to us too, for one simple reason. Family takes care of each other, and at the Lackey Law Firm, we'll take care of you.
The Lackey Law Firm. The Lackey Law Family. 1-800-4RIGHTS.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Your favorite sports book, BetUS.com, is back for their 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers their members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite leagues, including college football and the NFL. They've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest European slots, and their live dealers are waiting for you at the tables. Sign up at BetUS.com and use the promo code WZZN. That's BetUS.com and the promo code WZZN.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
I'm number 2. Pick 2 Friday on The Drive is brought to you by Humphrey's Bar and Grill.
I mean, this wouldn't happen on the Wheel of Fortune.
Call into The Drive each Friday for your chance to win on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
All right, welcome back in. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond with you on a Tuesday morning. Great conversation there. Vince Ferrara helping us look at that Tennessee-Florida matchup inside Neyland Stadium. And we were laughing there at the end because, yes, Steve Spurrier is the celebrity game day picker for this Saturday's contest in Knoxville. Kind of funny about that one. That's an interesting one there.
Yeah. If you want to create some divisiveness, certainly.
256-576-4977. That's how you can get in on the show this morning.
Because I can't see Steve Spurrier picking the Tennessee Vols and pissing off all the Gators.
Yeah, how does that one go?
Yeah. Even though they're going to get the hell beat out of them. Unless Anthony Richardson gets a lobotomy or something.
A lobotomy? Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean, if he's got to improve from the neck up, man. Tell the truth. I mean, now I will say this: if you go back inside the numbers, but again, it's South Florida. The Gators average 7 yards a carry. If they can run the ball on Tennessee and control the clock, and he does protect it and doesn't turn it over, because that's been the problem. Like, he even had a disastrous red zone turnover when they were trying to put the game away late against South Florida. If he can protect the ball and not throw it to Tennessee,
yeah,
and they can run it, then they can stay in the game. You know what I'm saying? This can be a 4-quarter game. It's going to come down to the fact Can they protect the football? And right now the Florida defense is not playing well. I mean, South Florida pushed them around, man, and Tennessee is 10 times better offensively. And you know they're not going to take the foot off the gas. And you just heard Vince talk about Hendon Hooker protecting the football. That means Tennessee is going to score in the 40s. So more than likely. So how is Florida going to be able to keep up? The only way, though, is to play keep away and to run the football and control the tempo and limit the possessions for Tennessee, because right now that Gator defense is not playing well. They don't have the talent in the front seven that they've had, and that's where I think the matchup is the worst for Florida. They have a quarterback that makes mistakes, that hadn't been able to throw the ball, and then effectively, and they've got a defense right now that's not been very good, got pushed around in the trenches, and this Tennessee offense is very potent.
Yeah.
And so I just, they got off to a slow start against Pitt, and they still ended up, with 34 points. And I think Pitt is better at the line of scrimmage right now in their front seven than Florida. So that's what I've been disappointed in what I've seen of Florida so far. So to me, everything points to Tennessee.
Speaking of not playing well, the Tennessee Titans not playing well right now. They took one on the chin last night on Monday Night Football, 41-7. They fall on the road to the Buffalo Bills last night.
Awful. They have no quarterback.
They are 0-2 to start the year. Brian Dable and the Giants, remember, got the best of them in Week 1, 21-20. And then last night on the road at Buffalo, they just got rolled. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, they get past the Minnesota Vikings last night, 24-7. It was a good weekend for former Alabama quarterbacks Mac Jones, Tua, and Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
They all have
all
good
big wins.
weekends.
The Bills look like the best team in football, though.
Well, the Tennessee Titans made them look really good last night.
Well, I mean, think about it, though. That's twice, though. The Bills just eviscerated the Rams on the road.
That's true. No, you're right.
I mean, the Bills look really good. I mean, even though they've had to tweak their roster a little bit, they've got Josh Allen. And anytime you lose your offensive coordinator, it's concerning because Brian Dable had such a great synergy with Josh. But the Bills look really, really good so far, man. They look like they've got a shot to be a Super Bowl favorite for sure.
All right. Got to get that break in. When we come back, going to kick off hour 2. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN. The Zone phone lines are open. Plus, we'll check in with some coaches around the league. We got a lot of stuff to get to. And how good is Georgia? Peter Burns will explain.
What can you expect when you shop for a firearm at Bullet & Barrel? Expect great prices. We specialize in quality over quantity. Expect great service. Our professional sales staff is never pushy. We won't talk you into something that doesn't fit your needs. You have the right to make a smart, informed decision. Expect Bullet & Barrel, Alabama's only 5-star indoor shooting range, to support you after the sale. Bullet & Barrel, 3252 Lehman Ferry Road. Like or follow us on Facebook. Come see us soon.
Waiting was such a mistake. That's one of the things we hear most after we've successfully treated one of our patients for erectile dysfunction. At the Huntsville Men's Clinic, we want you to know first and foremost that waiting is a mistake, because the longer you wait, the more difficult it can be to treat your ED. Using what you've got is important, not just for your relationship, but for your overall health. There's some truth to the phrase, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. At the Huntsville Men's Clinic, we'll fight for your ability to consistently perform without the anxiety that so many men experience. In fact, you might even find you're performing like you haven't in a long time. We only treat ED and low T at the Huntsville Men's Clinic, and we've successfully treated many men with protocols that are effective in nearly 90% of cases. We also have the full complement of treatments, including acoustic wave therapy, so you get the one that works best for you. So don't wait. Make an appointment. For just $99, you'll get a medical consultation, blood work, and if medically advised, a test dose. Call today, 256-368-0333. That's 256-368-0333, or go to HuntsvilleMen'sClinic.com.
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
A wise man once said, "If you take care of old folks and children, everything in the middle will take care of itself."
Hi, I'm Danny Aldridge, lawyer in Alabama and Tennessee. In the next 20 years, the number of those folks over 65 years of age will more than double. In our golden years, the most important goal is to be treated with dignity and have control over doing what makes you grateful with those you love. At the Aldridge Law Firm and the Legal Town Center, we're dedicated to help you with these goals, and we'll be there when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. Let us assist you with your legal needs, whatever they may be or become. You may reach us by phone at 256-534-3188 or online with Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Just remember, we're here to help. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, fraud and cheat, or estate planning made complete, we're here to help.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121.
Log on today, 977ESPN.com. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
Welcome back, Talking Ball Hour 2. We are back at it on a Tuesday morning, and we've been talking some SEC football and Alabama getting ready to take on Vanderbilt on Saturday. We're going to break that one down here, start breaking it down here in just a minute. But we were talking about this in the first hour. And Peter Burns, and I did watch the Georgia-South Carolina matchup for just a few minutes. And, I mean, South Carolina was in over their head in that one. But here's Peter Burns on the Georgia Bulldogs.
Another take right now. Okay, right, one shot.
I agree with you on Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker, Heisman Trophy finalist.
You're going to agree with me on this. The Georgia Bulldogs are going to go down as one of the greatest college football teams we've ever seen, and they will go undefeated this entire season, and they will not even have an opponent get within single digits of them right now. Great on offense, great on defense, great on special teams.
Let me ask you this question then. So you think this year's Georgia team is going to win the national championship and be better than last year's Georgia team?
I just said that.
Better than last year's Georgia team?
Yes, absolutely, because they have an offense right now. They got Stetson Bennett. They got 28-year-old and 5-year NFL All-Pro Brock Bowers playing for them right now. This team will not be touched all season long.
Till they go to...
Yeah.
Is Georgia really better than they were last year?
I'm not ready to say that. I mean, look, they certainly Oregon helped that case by drilling a ranked BYU team. That certainly helped Georgia. I think they're the best team in the country right now. I'm not going to say they're not. I mean, they've mauled everybody they've played. They ran through the motions and beat Samford 33-0. But you have games like that where you're gonna beat an overmatched opponent, no doubt about it. And so, and Chris Hatcher and Kirby go back a ways. They're both Valdosta State guys, so you understand that. They mauled South Carolina. But I think the bottom of the SEC East is horrifically bad. Vandy is better in year 2 under Clark Lee, but I still don't think they're very good. I mean, this is a Vandy team that was down 28-14 in Northern Illinois.
Right.
Okay, and so I just think overall Missouri, Vandy, South Carolina aren't very good.
Look at this schedule for Georgia, and it may not be an outlandish statement because coming up next they have Kent State.
Blowout.
Missouri.
Blowout.
Auburn,
blowout.
Vanderbilt,
blowout.
That's the next 4 games for Georgia.
I mean, they're not that they aren't going to get tested by any of those teams. They're going to maul them.
Then it's Florida,
blowout.
Tennessee,
good game,
November 5th, and then it's Mississippi State.
Yeah, it could be competitive.
Kentucky, and then Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and then Kentucky can definitely give them a game. Georgia Tech is pathetic. They'll be in the middle of a coaching search by then because I'm sure they'll have an interim coach after Jeff Collins is, given the Jim Morrison. So, I mean, I just think, but the best team ever, let's pump the brakes. I mean, because last year these same bloviating idiots were talking about the Georgia defense being generational and being one of the greatest in college football history, and Georgia was going to go undefeated, and then Alabama lit that ass up in Atlanta and blew them out. Now Georgia turned around and got revenge on Alabama with a great fourth quarter and overcame an 18-14 deficit. But again, they didn't go undefeated. Even the 2011 Alabama team didn't, because that LSU team was, after they beat Alabama, when Alabama didn't cash in on some opportunities that they should have. Alabama should have won that game by double digits and should have, gone down as one of the greatest teams of all time. The defense has, but the team should have been, because they should have beaten everybody by double digits.
Right. But
they didn't. They LSU escaped with an overtime win, 9-6. I'm sorry, I guess it was 6-3. I'm sorry. But 6-3, and Alabama had all those kicking game issues, but they solved those issues going into the rematch, and LSU didn't pass midfield, and they beat LSU's brains out 21-0. But we'll see. I mean, I certainly think they're the best team right now, but you don't get a trophy for being the best team right now. Brock Bowers is a freakazoid. He's an unbelievable talent. There's no question about that, and we've seen Stetson Bennett progress. He's a great story. He's playing at a very high level. He's definitely going to be in the Heisman conversation. But I think also Georgia's schedule, and we saw this in the preseason, they're very, very talented, and their schedule sets up well for them because the SEC East is not very good. It looks like it's basically 3 good teams. It looks like it's Georgia, and who's a great team, and then you got Tennessee and Kentucky, who you're still trying to decide how good they are. And then the rest of it just doesn't look good at all. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't think that these teams are very good, in my opinion. I think that they are very, very average. So I think the SEC is still a very tough league, but the toughness is playing in the SEC West. It's not playing in the East.
I was just going to say, we've stacked up the East. We say it's Georgia, and then you can lump Tennessee and Kentucky.
Because Florida's been a disappointment.
And then you mix. Then that next level is Florida. And then that next tier is the Missouris and the South Carolinas and the Vanderbilts. How would you put the West then right now? I mean, is Alabama up? Alabama is up there.
Yeah, they are.
But where would you put? Right behind them, where would you lump everybody else? I mean, do you put Ole Miss in there? Do you put Arkansas in there?
I would still go with Arkansas.
LSU looked impressive in the second half against Mississippi State on Saturday. It looks like they may have figured some things out. Where would you group the West then if we're comparing the East in that pot?
Well, I mean, I would still go with probably Arkansas. I do think it was good, big of LSU to show the progress to come back against Mississippi State at home. Still think they've got an erratic quarterback, but they're talented. And it was big to get a win because, as we know, Mississippi State, for the first time in 22 years, was a favorite over LSU in Baton Rouge, but slight, maybe 2.5, 3 points. But they were a favorite. Ole Miss has looked impressive so far. I think they're certainly going to get another big win coming up on Saturday. I want to see them play Kentucky in a few weeks. That's probably where we're going to see another kind of measuring stick game, how good they are. Certainly, and when you look at it too, I think Texas A&M, they've been a little disappointing. Now, it was big for them to get up off the mat and beat Miami, but that's not surprising considering if you look at Mario Cristobal's history as a head coach in big games, he's about he's a box of chocolates. Sometimes his team shows up, plays really well, and sometimes they play like they did against ATM and they lose 17-9 and can't even get in the end zone. So again, Texas A&M stepped up off the mat, did a nice job, got a win. Arkansas played flat against their former coach Bobby Petrino at Missouri State and Kyrie McDonald, but they got a win as well, 38-27. So that's all that matters. That's going to be a really interesting game in Jerry World between them and Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is, I want to say, maybe a slight 3-point favorite there. But Arkansas won the game last year, and so Arkansas's got a brutal schedule as well. So, but I do think that I don't think anybody except for Auburn in the SEC West has been viciously disappointing. Certainly, Florida State beating LSU was surprising. But FSU's off to a 3-0 start. They look like they're better under Mike Norvell. And we understand, I'll just say this, if Florida State, had been better in the kicking game, or excuse me, if LSU had been better in the kicking game, if LSU had played someone like FSU did the week before, and it hadn't been LSU's first game, I think LSU would have won that game, worked out the kinks. If they had played Southern in the first game and then played Florida State, you can't do that. You can't have a do-over. But I do think LSU would have won the game, so they would have had a better idea of what they've got. But again, and then the injuries to people like Mason Smith was devastating to LSU. But I do think LSU looks like they're very competitive. Auburn, and the way they just fell flat against Penn State, is really the only alarming one in the West so far.
Right.
Because again, I thought Florida State could stay on the field with LSU, but I thought LSU would win the game and pull away. They didn't, but they did respond and win in Starkville in Baton Rouge against Mississippi State. Pardon me. But I'm going to be interested to see how Mississippi State bounce back because they do have a ton of experience. But I've always thought, and I did. You have to wear it. I picked them last in the West. I didn't pick Auburn.
Well, I didn't.
But right
pick
now,
Auburn
looks like the worst team in the West. We'll see.
Yeah, I didn't pick Auburn to finish last in the West. I bought in too much of the Zach Calzada hype, thinking that he was going to come in, steady the quarterback situation, steady the quarterback room.
Right.
And yesterday, Brian Harsin was even asked if Zach Calzada was 100%, why we haven't even seen him. And the response was, well, do you know something I don't know? So anyway, there's something going on in practices that obviously we don't see with this Auburn program with Zach Calzada. Something is off with him. To the phone lines we go. Randy's holding for us this morning. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, fellas. How y'all?
Good, Randy.
Okay, Drew, I agree with you, buddy. I agree 100% with you. Tennessee and Kentucky probably the two teams other than Alabama is going to give Georgia problems. Because the other teams, I don't think them other teams is up to par, like you said. I mean, how can you even rank an Oregon team that lost 3 of the last 4 last year? What do you think about all that?
Well, I mean, Oregon, they were impressive against a BYU team that had won in overtime against Baylor and were ranked in themselves. So you got to give Oregon credit for that, for bouncing back. That's what, makes Georgia look even better because Georgia dominated them. And Georgia, again, right now, I think they are the best team in the country. But like we said, Randy, you don't win the national championship now. And, Alabama, certainly, they didn't stay healthy enough and have enough guys step up for those injured guys to beat Georgia the second time. So you have to stay healthy. You got to stay hungry. And certainly right now, Georgia is the best team in the country. But Alabama, I think, has still got some upside to them and an ability to get better. But Alabama also has a tougher schedule than Georgia. Scott just went over Georgia's schedule. I mean, look, man, the next month they're not gonna break a sweat. They're gonna win those games.
There's not
easily.
too many speed bumps in that schedule right now that you're going to sit there and look and say like,
that.
well, I don't know about that one.
I disagree with you. You're probably going to say I'm wrong. But I'll tell you who the best team is, and they would have beat Alabama if that quarterback hadn't went down, and that's Texas.
Well, I mean, ifs and buts were candy and nuts. I don't know if they would have beat them or not. I mean, I do think Ewers was playing well, but Alabama hadn't switched to a zone yet. You make defensive adjustments. Sometimes guys cool off. You never know. I mean, you know, that's that's like But see, the reason I say Alabama would have won the national championship without the injuries last year to Georgia. But see, that was proven by watching Alabama the month before. I don't know if Texas would have won the game. I mean, you know, you never know. Maybe Ewers would have stayed that hot. Maybe Texas would have won, but you know, Texas didn't have a significant lead when he went out. So again, it's just one of those things that you never know. And you know, we probably won't know until next year when Ewers comes to Tuscaloosa and see if he can play well against Alabama then. But you know, sometimes football is a funny game, and certainly I think it was significant for Texas to come back from a 10-point deficit and beat UTSA, who's a very solid team, by the way, and start getting an impressive win with his backup quarterback there. And then we'll see how good Texas is when Ewers gets back, because it was a 4 to 6 week injury, and then he'll be back. And we'll see also coming up if Texas can beat OU, because Texas should have beat Oklahoma last year and blew that big lead and really was never the same football team after that.
Yeah, and if you're looking at that Georgia schedule, just to delve into it a little bit further, the Auburn game is at Georgia. The Vanderbilt game is at Georgia. The Tennessee game is at Georgia. The only big humps, I guess you could
Lexington, I think,
is Kentucky's on the road at Lexington. Mississippi State is in Starkville, and then the Florida game obviously is in Jacksonville.
It wouldn't matter where that game
was. So I mean, Georgia's schedule this year, Peter Burns may be right. They may win every regular season game by that simply because the schedule sets up for them to do so.
I mean, I'm not picking anybody, you know, against them.
Yes.
I'd like to see Texas play them, though.
Well, I mean, I'd like to see Texas beat Oklahoma first. I mean, that'd be in the Big 12. I mean, that's a game they need to win.
Now they'll win that, Andrew.
All right, Randy, thanks for the call, bud.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good.
All right, Randy with us. Speaking of Alabama and Vanderbilt, it's also a return matchup for one Tyler Steen.
You know, really just, you know, I spent 4 years at Vanderbilt, got my degree. You know, really just looking for something new. You know, obviously had the opportunity to go to a prestigious university like this, and, you know, I didn't want to pass that up, so made that decision.
Tyler Steen made that decision to come to Alabama, and Drew, he's helped solidify that offensive line a little bit.
Well, I mean, he struggled a little bit in the last game. Wasn't his, greatest performance. Had some issues in pass protection, But again, he's still adjusting to his new team. Certainly, you want to see him clean it up as an offensive line. I think Tyler Booker pushing at left guard is going to help. It gives them more physicality. And again, not saying that Steen was was a problem in the game, but again, he had plays where he struggled a little bit. I do think he's been very solid, though. I think he's certainly been, he and Latham at the tackle spots has been an upgrade, on the right and left side. Last year, they had a dominant player on the left side in Evan Neal, and then just Prey on the other side, pretty much with Chris Owens. He was not a guy that was dominant. He was a guy that did not play all that well during the season and struggled at times. Same way with Damian George. Owens had a good game against Georgia in the SEC championship game, but again, in the rematch, he struggled. Certainly, Georgia's very talented. So again, you have to just continue to get better. I think Steen will get better the more he plays because he's going to get more and more comfortable playing for Wolford, playing at Alabama. Needs to stay healthy, of course, because Alabama doesn't have a lot of depth at tackle. But I do think he and J.C. Latham have been, for the most part, very solid. Now, Latham got off to a rough start against Texas. He had some false starts and some mistakes. And, again, that led to Alabama struggling early and not maybe running the ball as well as people would hope. But, again, I think Texas has improved. Now, I'm not ready to call them. I think Randy was basically inferring that they're a top 10 team and things of that nature. I'm not ready to say that for Texas. I think they're better. They kind of validated what I said going into the season. Now, they might be even better than I thought they were going to be, and we'll find that out when they play the Baylors and they play the Oklahomas and the people like that, because they've got some people going forward. Matter of fact, I think this weekend they're playing Texas Tech in Lubbock. They're going on the road, and Texas Tech is not a bad team. We'll see, if Texas can continue to stack performances. And if you're Alabama, you hope so, because they certainly scared the daylights out of you and you were lucky to escape. And so that would mean that you played a quality opponent. Now, if Oregon keeps winning, then that makes Georgia look even better and more dominant, and that's why people like Peter Burns will crown them in midseason and say they're the greatest team of all time. Now, most of the time when you start saying things like that, it falls short. Though I will say this, even a meathead like Ed Ogeron, it did end up coming true, because LSU looked great and kept it going and beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa and went on to have one of the great regular seasons in history.
Right.
And for them, it did come to fruition for once. A team finished. So we'll see. It's definitely possible. Maybe that kind of year is happening for Georgia, but it's very difficult to repeat. And usually there's some sort of adversity you have to overcome. And really that you need, a coach wouldn't say this publicly, but it's not bad to go through adversity and come through the fire, which I think in some cases for Alabama against Texas was a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, Alabama has looked good at moments, but Georgia has put more moments together, I think, consistently where they've looked better. But
go ahead.
If you're Alabama, though, this is kind of like a fine wine. You don't have to be ready to be frank right now. In 2 weeks or whatever, when you travel to Arkansas, that is going to be an environment like Texas, where it is going to be raucous, it is going to be crazy, it is going to be a 2:30 kick, it is going to have everything, all the emotions in it, just like Texas. That is where it matters the most for Alabama. Yes, this Vanderbilt game is an SEC game, but Alabama is better on paper and better top to bottom than Vanderbilt. Alabama should dominate this game. It's that Arkansas trip where Alabama has to be aged and ready to go.
Well, he does, and then one of our faithful listeners, Freddie Kirby, he sends in a very interesting stat, Scott, because you were talking about how the schedule sets up for Georgia. Out of 131 Division I schools, their schedule is 94th.
Oh, yeah,
their schedule strength. It's what we're saying. They should be double-digit favorites.
Yeah,
with everybody, and with the way that everything. With the way the schedule sets up, most all the tough games are at home too. So
tough, yeah. If you call them tough,
yeah.
Bama Bino with us real fast. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. Great show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to chime in on something real quick, and I know y'all know this, but about Ed O beating Bama and Tuscaloosa. Let's not forget, Tua was kind of nursing one side of his leg, and he reversed the ball to where he wouldn't get hit and fumbled the ball and pretty well give away 7 points right there. And Mac hadn't had time, practicing with his receivers in a game. Of course, we know what he ended up being, probably one of the best passers Alabama's ever had. But, he hadn't at that time, Mac Jones hadn't had time to, really read his receivers on their secondary routes. And I think if that fumble hadn't happened, and that, in my opinion, was all a product of us ahead of Mississippi State 35-7 before half or something like that, and Tua lobbying to come in and stay in the ball game when we was ahead instead of letting Mac play, and then he got hurt by getting by his blind side, being parallel to the line and not looking around him. And that's how he got his leg hurt or whatever that time. So that's history, but and it's just I was afraid he was going to get hurt with the blind side there. But that's the only reason Ed O beat us in Tuscaloosa. Now that was a good team, but it was one of those whoever scores last wins game. And that 7 points at the very the goal line when he fumbled, it cost us the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I was going to say. And I just don't understand leaving a quarterback in that long. Of course, Saban knows a lot more about football than I do, but don't reschedule when you don't have to. But anyway, that's all I was going to say. And what do y'all think about the Arkansas A&M game? You think that's going to be a good one?
Oh, yeah. I definitely think it's going to be very competitive, Bama Bino, no question.
Yeah, it's going to be in Jerrysville.
Is it in Fayetteville or
it's in Jerrysville?
No, it's always in Jerrysville.
In Arlington.
Yep.
Arlington. Well, that's fair.
Yep.
Home that way, and nobody can really say we got home field advantage. Yep. Well, I'm looking forward to watching that one.
Yep.
All right, Bambino, thanks for the
Thank
call.
you, man.
And we'll continue, and we'll break that Arkansas Texas A&M matchup down as the week goes on, because it's only Tuesday. We got plenty of time to get to that one, because we got to get a break in. Aaron Suttles will help us with Alabama Vanderbilt and just where the Tide stand right now.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
McCurry Motors is your car and van rental headquarters. You can rent the vehicle you need today. Family in town, sporting event, church function, no matter what your need, McCurry Motors has you covered with a wide selection of cars and vans available for rent. They have 12-passenger Mercedes Sprinter vans, 12-passenger Ford Transit vans, 15-passenger Ford Transit vans, and 15-passenger Chevrolet Express vans. They have 2 locations, Highway 72 in Athens or Max Luther Drive in Huntsville.
Are you in the market for a recreational vehicle? Do you want to get out and see more of this beautiful country? Well, imagine hearing the laughter of your little ones enjoying gooey s'mores by a cozy campfire and making lasting memories with your friends and family from the comfort of a new camper. We can make your dreams come true at Hall's RV. With over 15 years in the camping business, we know how to get our customers into the perfect camper. We have several models and floor plans here for you to choose from, both new and used. We're family owned and operated with fantastic deals and great service. Everyone wants to work with people they can trust, so come on down to Hall's RV and get the deal of a lifetime. We'll treat you right and get you on the road in the camper of your dreams. Visit us on Highway 431 in Albertville. Hall's RVs, where we sell fun. Or see us on the web at www.hallsrvsales.com.
What's better than Valley Equipment Rental? 2 Valley Equipment Rentals, and that's just what we have now. The original on the South Memorial Parkway between Drake and Airport Road, and their second location on North Memorial Parkway just north of Winchester Road. Valley Equipment is locally owned and has more skid steers, excavators, and lifts than anyone in the area, plus all the small tools that you need to get the job done like a pro. And if you are a pro, you need to check out the new North location now, because Valley Equipment has what you need. Learn more at valleyequipmentrents.com.
At Bryant Bank, we believe your goals are worth chasing, and every step along the way is worth celebrating. From your hopes for the future to the challenges that keep you up at night, we're here for you. Bryant Bankers put care into action to help you live legendary by stepping up when you need us most and doing what's right even when no one is watching. Come experience a local bank whose people greet you by name and treat you like family. Bryant Bank, member FDIC.
Our latest zone deal is upon us. Log on to 977ESPN.com for Gunner's Landing. 2 rounds of golf for the price of 1, including a cart. Gunner's Landing is one of the Tennessee Valley's finest golf experiences. Just 35 minutes from downtown Huntsville, Gunner's Landing's 18-hole championship jewel is open to the public 7 days a week. Gunner's Landing offers you a golf experience like no other. Log on now, 977ESPN.com.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
This is Attorney Tommy Sinyard on behalf of Sinyard Law, and again proud to be a sponsor of all things football here on ESPN Radio. My son Bart and I started our own law firm July 1 and are very proud and excited to be bringing you our 50 years of collective national award-winning injury trial law experience. Check us out on the web, sinyardlaw.com.
Sinyard Law, nationally recognized, locally respected.
When you call most roofing companies, all you'll hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming. At Fleming Roofing and Restoration, we're focused on your needs, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement. Folks around here have trusted Fleming since 1965 for all their residential and commercial roofing needs. And as the area's storm damage experts, Fleming knows all the ins and outs of the insurance claims process. Log on FlemingHSV.com to schedule your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
Coming up next, it's the Tom Abraham Show with me, Tom Abraham. Now back to more Talking Ball with Scott and Drew.
Indeed, it is Talking Ball. Scott and Drew with you until 9 o'clock this morning, 30 minutes to go in the show. And right before the break, we were talking about Alabama and Vanderbilt. We heard a little bit of Tyler Steen as he will face off against his former teammates Saturday inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Of course, 97.7 ESPN The Zone, your home for Alabama football. So download the app today so you can have the power of 97.7 ESPN The Zone in the palm of your hand. And Drew, just where is this Alabama team after that Louisiana Monroe game?
Yeah, and who better to break it down for us? It was great to see him in the press box in Bryant-Denny Stadium this past Saturday afternoon. He does a great job for The Athletic in covering the University of Alabama. He's covered the program for a long, long time. And at the end of our conversation, we're going to talk about his book coming out as well. He's got a work coming out on Alabama football. But it's always an honor to speak with Aaron Suttles, who's taking out some time to join us this morning on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline on Talking Ball. Aaron, great to have you back in Huntsville with Drew and Scott. How are you?
Gentlemen, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And, you know, I always read through your notes and very interested to get your takes after each game. Interesting that some of the things you pointed out. In fact, one of them, and I know we were all kind of buzzing about it in the press box, is Tyler Booker pushing at left guard. This 5 guys, I thought, you know, one thing that sort of surprised me going into the season, Aaron, is coming out of fall camp with the buzz you heard. I thought that they may have already found the 5 guys along the O-line. That looks like it's not settled as of yet right now.
It's not, and, you know, I think they're just searching for more movement, more power from those guard positions. And you know, I'm a little concerned, quite frankly. Nick Saban has talked he's led to almost had a lot of confidence in saying, you know, they got 7 or 8 starters on the offensive line. Well, they're not all playing like starters. And I know Alabama's better than 90% of the teams that they play, but, you know, for a guy Nick Saban who likes to not say that any team is less than, it's almost been open tryouts and auditions up until they get to Arkansas. And I just would have thought like you that they'd already found those 5 guys. And the fact that they're still playing around with it after week 3 is a little concerning to me, because you're going to have a tough October, a really tough October. Yeah. And you got to get those guys playing together. And whether that started last week, and we'll see if Tyler Booker stays there, I think if he's going to be the guy, then you got to make that move. No more switching. You got to let these guys get some reps together.
Is it the same feeling for the wide receiver? Do you have that same feeling for the wide receiver position? They looked like they're coming along, but again, obviously all signs point to that Arkansas game where you want everyone on the same page. You want everyone to step up. How do you feel about that wide receiver position?
Relatively, Scott, I'm disappointed. It's not what I thought it would be. And you know, you take Jahmyr Gibbs out of it, and he's a running back. He leads the team in receptions. He's got 14 receptions. I think the second best guy is Trayshawn Holden, who has 12. And then I'm getting screenshots in my DMs on my Twitter that after the game he's tweeting things like, "I'm a free agent." I mean, if that's the guy that's your best wide receiver, and I think we all probably thought that Jermaine Burton would be the number 1 on this unit. And he was open, and Bryce missed him for a touchdown. But I just have concerns about that unit. You know, Nick Saban was asked after the game about the downfield passing game, and he said, well, they played split safety. Well, if Louisiana Monroe can take away your downfield passing game, what's Arkansas going to do? What's Tennessee going to do? What's Texas A&M going to do? I understand that you take what the defense gives you, and absolutely. But relatively, if these guys can't get off coverage against Louisiana Monroe, there are a lot more difficult challenges coming up, and Jahmyr Gibbs can only do so much. Although it was nice to see Cameron Latu back and involved in the passing game, and I'm really intrigued to see if Amari Niblack can have a bigger role down the as the season unfolds.
That's a perfect segue. I was about to ask you about that because we had not seen Niblack with the ones until Saturday. Obviously, that tells me he's doing something in practice to impress the coaches. I heard a lot of great things about him in high school coming out, but he didn't enroll early, Aaron. But it looks like he may be starting to get it, so to speak, and he brings a different skill set. Latu looked really good, made one of the best catches of his career on that 38-yarder, and certainly he's going to be involved in this offense, and Nick Saban has talked about that with all his experience. But a guy like Niblack, especially if some of these wide receivers, the younger ones, are struggling with the neck up part of it and the down to down consistency, he could be a big key in his development, Niblack.
Absolutely, and it's huge getting Cameron back because Cameron is such a big weapon in the red zone. But like you mentioned, he's never really been inside the 20s guy that shoot up a bunch of yards. But you mentioned that great catch he made on that nearly 40-yarder. But I think that's what Niblack can give you. I mean, if defenses can only take away so much, and if your wide receivers, if they're going to commit to making things difficult on these inexperienced wide receivers, and then you have to worry about Jahmyr Gibbs, who is a true weapon out of the backfield, and then you throw in a real threat at tight end, that can only help Bryce Young. So I think his development is key to this offense because they're just not – I want to be clear. This is all relative, right?
Right.
99% of college football would love to have the problems, quote-unquote, that Alabama has in the passing game. But it's just not what it was, and it's not where I think it needs to be if they want to challenge Georgia for the SEC, if they want to challenge Georgia for a national championship or other teams that may be able to line up and take away some of the stuff Alabama does offensively. That's why I'm judging it against. It's not that, hey, you win 63-7, everyone should be happy. But I think, Nick Saban said it's not about the score on the field, right? It's not about the score, it's about how you play. And when I'm watching it with my naked eye, how they're playing, I can see potential issues coming up down the road for what their ceiling is. And the ceiling is a national championship. That's what they're being judged against. So because of that, Amari Niblack's development, having Cameron Latu back, hey, getting JoJo Earl and maybe getting to see what Tyler Harrell can do in terms of just line up a wide receiver and have a run a go route. Back these guys up from sitting off everything, and then maybe some of these younger receivers can clear out in against maybe some zone coverage and get some easy receptions. They have to do something. Bill O'Brien has to do something, whether it's saying, hey, once or twice a quarter, I want you to run a go route. Just give them a throw, and even throw it. Make the defense fear it, because right now they're not.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. How much of it is what Bill O'Brien is calling and setting up for this Alabama offense? Because they go into Texas, they want to be physical, they want to run the ball. That was evident, that was clear. That's what they wanted to try to do. But how much of this is what Bill O'Brien is calling?
That's a good point, Scott. I think unfairly to Bill, he's always going to be compared to Steve Sarkisian. And that's just unfair because Steve Sarkisian is like a unicorn. He's so gifted. And when Alabama really shined under Sarkisian was maybe the greatest college football team we've ever seen in the history of the sport. So because of that, Bill gets compared unfairly. However, William Barger, who you guys all know, I was reading something he wrote last night, and I kind of agree with it. I don't think they know what this team's identity is offensively.
Right.
Do they want to be spread? Do they want to? I think Nick Saban always wants to be physical and run the football, but how physical of a threat do you seem when you're on 4th and 1 and you're running out of the shotgun at a pistol? Mm-hmm. I just question, do they know what their identity is? Are they trying to be multiple things? They always want to be multiple, and you want to be great at everything you do. But I think what I thought the identity of this football team would be, given the young receivers, I thought they'd be a more physical run football team. And that has not been the case this year, although explosive runs are way up from where they were on pace last year. The explosive runs are back in the offense. It's the consistency. But I think you have to put it on Bill O'Brien. And he's the offensive coordinator. It stops with him. But he also schemed up a wide receiver, wide open Jermaine Burton for a touchdown in that game, and Bryce overshot him. So we sort of forget some of that. So it's not as bad maybe as we're making it out to be, but I just think it's the comparison and seeing what Steve Sarkisian did against Alabama's defense and how creative they were those first couple series, and you're just like, well, this used to be what we saw from Alabama. It's not anymore, and I think it's not anymore because Steve Sarkisian is just so good.
Well, we're talking to Aaron Selton. Aaron, be careful calling Alabama the 2020 the greatest team of all time. Peter Burns has already crowned Georgia this year that.
You know what? Georgia's a great football team. But until Georgia plays an all-SEC schedule, an all-Power 5 schedule, until Georgia blows almost everybody they play out, until Georgia puts 6 guys off that team in the first round, 5 on the offense, Georgia's a great team. But Alabama was a good team last year. I don't think anybody would say Alabama was great last year, and that was supposed to be a historically good Georgia team, and Alabama blew them out in Mercedes-Benz. So I like Georgia a lot. I think Brock Bowers is one of the best players in college football.
Yes.
I don't think you can guard him. But I want to see a little more. I'm still not a huge believer in Stetson Bennett. And that may be me being unfair to Stetson Bennett, but I will stand by my statement. I watched all 13 games Alabama played in 2020. They were a video game. Georgia this year could be that level. We'll see. We'll see where they end up. But right now, it's for my running, and I know this is recency bias, is 2020 Alabama and 2019 LSU were pretty good. Georgia's got some work to do to be on that level.
Well, and Aaron, I thought it was also interesting something you asked Nick Saban, and I think this should be the identity of this team because, at least until we see Tyler Harrell, JoJo Earl, even Aaron Anderson, what kind of role can they play? But the strength is the running back room. It's very deep. We even saw the 6th guy, Jamarian Miller, hammering the ball and looking really good. But you talked about them scheming up touches for Jahmyr Gibbs because Gibbs has been the most dynamic player so far. As you wrote, not even close for Alabama.
He is. He's phenomenal. What a pickup out of the portal for Alabama, and where would they be without him? And I say that I want you guys to know, I love Jace McClellan.
Yeah.
He doesn't get talked about enough because of how good Jahmyr is. And Jamarian Miller's got a different gear. He's going to be fun to watch in the future. But and you going back to Scott's question about how much is on Bill O'Brien.
Yeah,
I love some of the stuff they're doing with Jahmyr Gibbs. So when I'm being critical of Bill, I also want to give him his flowers. Like splitting Jahmyr out, he's a mismatched player. Get him out on make the defense clear if they're in man, and then once they're in man, you shift him out and make a linebacker have to cover Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that's a win every day for Alabama, and I think you're right, Drew. He is the identity of this year's team. And I mentioned explosive runs are up. He's a big part of that. He's a huge part of that. So I want to be clear. I'm judging Alabama based on their potential, and so I'm always cautious to be overly critical of them. But I think fans are in the same mindset that we were sort of led to believe that this team would be pretty special. And I think it's early. I don't want to say they don't have the capability of that because football is a developmental game. These guys are going to get better and better and grow, and they haven't reached their ceiling yet. So they could get there, but right now they've got some issues we all thought would be there, right? The offensive line, the wide receivers, and they've managed to get to 3-0. But when October runs around, guys, at Fayetteville, home against A&M, at Knoxville, that is a tough 3-game stretch, and I've been screaming it for about 3 months now. No one's going to say that's one of the toughest stretches in college football, but it is absolutely 3 of the toughest games any team will play back to back to back. 2 of them on the road, sandwiched in between that hate game with Texas A&M. I think Alabama's got some stuff. They need to look good, and they need to play clean football this week to give themselves a lot of confidence on going on the road to Arkansas, because Sam Pittman, the job that he's done, they're a fundamental football team. Yeah. They're a hard-nosed football team, and they are a line-of-scrimmage football team. This is a less talented roster than Alabama, but it's built very much in the way that Nick Saban builds his team. Line of scrimmage, disciplined, play fundamental football. Arkansas does that, and they got a threat at quarterback. And Drew Sanders, as you guys know, Alabama would still love to have that guy. He is a phenomenal football player. I say all these critiques of Alabama knowing what they've got coming up. I think it's really important to decide your 5 offensive linemen, as we first talked about, so you get that going into Arkansas, and there's no more flip-flopping around.
Yeah,
it's the first world of college football problems for Alabama. They do have a defense, though, that is allowing this offense to grow, to find its rhythm, to find what its identity is, to find where it needs to be. And really, I mean, if they go out Saturday, they put it together, they check some of these boxes against Vanderbilt, we're all going to be sitting here on Monday saying, see, we told you this Alabama team has it all figured out.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off something Scott said, too. I think Terrion Arnold has played well.
Yeah, we thought this defense would be good. And I mentioned Alabama fans and how hard they are on this team. You guys know, you take phone calls from them. I think that people were really in my DMs about going after Pete Golding in the Texas game. And I kept telling them, listen, Steve Sarkisian is going to scheme up the first couple series.
Yeah.
Giving you looks they haven't seen. So don't almost throw that out and judge them not against that. But even that, let's take that game. Without that defense, Alabama doesn't win that game.
No.
Flat out. Does not win that game. I know they committed a lot of penalties, but they gave up one touchdown when the offense went 5 straight drives of 3 and out. The offense had 6 straight punts, 5 of those drives 3 and out, and the defense kept them in that football game in a very hostile environment, without much of a pass rush and without creating a turnover. And Alabama's given up 2 touchdowns all year, guys. 2 touchdowns all year, which is phenomenal. And they've been great against the run. And I say all this to say they still haven't reached their peak yet either. As I mentioned, we haven't seen the pass rush was coming around against ULM, but they've only had 1 takeaway on the year. And wait till they get these going. Wait till the pass rush gets going. Wait till the turnovers start happening. Then this defense's final form is going to take shape into what we all thought it would be. And it's been pretty good so far because without that defense, they don't win in Texas. So, wait till Will Anderson gets going, Dallas Turner gets going. We see Chris Braswell, as you mentioned, Terrion Arnold. They got to get that secondary locked down too. I think Henry To'oTo'o played one of his better games against ULM. He was really aggressive. I think this defense I'm not really worried about. They played well enough. They're going to play well enough to keep Alabama in almost every game. It's going to be the offense. Can they keep up? And because I don't really have that many concerns. In this day and age in college football, I think it's unrealistic to expect the defense to stand on its head, to borrow a hockey term, every game. It's just so difficult with the way the rules favor the offense and the talent on offense and the spread and all that. But I think this defense is good enough to keep Alabama in every game and give them a chance to win.
Well, and Aaron, as we wrap it up with you, we thank you for the time. We know you're very busy, but I also wanted you to talk about your work coming out in October. You're writing a book. You're one of the most gifted writers that we've ever had a chance to, connect with, and you have a gift with the written word. We talked about your David Palmer article. I thought your article on Coach Bryant's 2 old houses were outstanding for The Athletic, but talk about the work you've got coming out.
I have a book, and it's just a series of stories on the great players Alabama's had throughout the years, some of the great coaches and assistant coaches that we've seen under Nick Saban, looking at the recruiting under Nick Saban, just different little stories that I always wanted to write. So I wanted to capture. I consider myself very fortunate to have come along at this place in history. Like when I was a young kid, I always used to tell my granddaddy I always asked him a question: what was it like to live in the heyday of Coach Bryant? I mean, how awesome would that have been? In my mind at that time, I'm like, I'll never experience that. And then lo and behold, not only have I experienced it with Nick Saban, I've been part of it, being able to be fortunate enough to document it and write about it. So I wanted to capture some of that for the fans and honestly live a legacy for my son that he'll have that one day, knowing that his dad was able to write a book. But it was an incredibly hard process. But listen, when you're writing about Alabama football, there is no shortage of topics, especially under Nick Saban, the greatness that they've achieved. And I just wanted to be a small part of documenting that.
Well, we look forward to that, Aaron, no doubt. Well, thank you, sir, and we look forward to continue to follow your work on The Athletic. We always appreciate the time.
All right, guys, take care.
All right, thanks. Let's get that final break in.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Gunner's Landing is one of the Tennessee Valley's finest golf experiences. Just 35 minutes from downtown Huntsville, Gunners Landing's 18-hole championship jewel is open to the public 7 days a week. Located in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, Gunners Landing offers you a golf experience like no other. With beautiful Lake Gunnersville views throughout the round, Gunners Landing is golf the way nature intended. Gunners Landing's club repair shop offers a full range of services, including re-gripping and adjusting the lofts and lies of your clubs, even putters. Since the work is done in-house, your clubs will be returned to you in a timely manner. Unmatched in the North Alabama area, it is Gunners Landing. Schedule your tee time today at gunnerslandinggolf.com. That's gunnerslandinggolf.com.
AVIQ. Who is AVIQ? AVIQ is audiovisual the intelligent way, where we put our IQ to work for your AV needs. With more than 100 years combined experience in audio, video, and automation, our team of experts is dedicated to one thing: helping you discover technological solutions that make your home special. Once you experience a game or a movie on one of our state-of-the-art home theater systems, you may never leave the house again. AVIQ can build the entire system for you or provide the quality components if you're a do-it-yourselfer. But AVIQ is more than just home theater and state-of-the-art sound systems. We offer a variety of control options for home technology. Energy efficiency, heightened security, and improved quality of life are all attainable through the automation of home systems. Intuitive and user-friendly control is our main priority in designing a system that meets your needs. Don't just take our word for it. You need to see it to believe it. Come visit us at our state-of-the-art showroom on University, just east of Jim and Nick's, across from AT&T, or visit aviqhsv.com.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121.
Your favorite sports book, BetUS.com, is back for their 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers their members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite leagues, including college football and the NFL. They've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest European slots, and their live dealers are waiting for you at the tables. Sign up at BetUS.com and use the promo code WZZN. That's BetUS.com and the promo code WZZN.
And now a small business setback, delivered by a kind French stranger.
Monsieur, there was an accident. The windshield of your catering van is, how do you say, kaput? But Progressive has an extensive network of repair shops. Now, we sing about the old days. Brave marin revient de guerre.
When things go wrong with your small business, it's comforting to know you have Progressive Commercial. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Croissance for everyone.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, covered subject to policy terms and conditions.
Catch the Tide every Saturday. Hi, this is Chris Stewart of the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Listen to Alabama football on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Roll Tide.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com. It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Welcome back, Talking Ball. A couple little headlines for you. Congratulations to our very good friend Brewer Hicklin.
Yep.
Named the Kansas City Royals AAA Hitter of the Year.
There you go.
I mean, why not? I mean, he had
at one point he had 20 stolen bases, 20 doubles, and 20 homers. So
yeah, he had one of the best. And I mean, think of all the. I mean, I'm talking Royal greats that have come through. I really can't name them, but I mean, there's been some really good ones. But he has had the best AAA season of any Royal minor leaguer in history.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's how good of a year Brewer Hicklin has had.
Remember, just a few short seasons ago, they were the world champions before they had to trade everyone off because they're a small market ball club. But he's had a heck of a year this year. You remember 1985. When the Royals won their other championship. I mean, that's just one of those things that that you just remember. The George Brett's, the great players that they had. That ball club they had, the Moustakas, all those guys before they had to trade them off, that they had built through the draft and built a great ball club, and they were able to win the World Series. And the thing is, that's when Brewer was drafted by them in the 7th round. I said, look, that's a good organization for him to go to because they're going to develop their own guys. They don't go out like the Yankees and the Mets and the Nationals at one point in time. The Nationals winning the World Series a few short seasons ago, but basically doing it through free agency. That's not what they're about. They're about developing their own players. They're letting Brewer develop. He's gotten a couple of cups of coffee with the Major League team this year. Hopefully he's going to be a permanent part of it next year, and certainly doing what he's done this season and putting up those numbers in AAA. Hey, man, the next step is to become a permanent part of the parent ball club.
Yeah, hopefully that is next year for him. The other big one is staying in baseball. Yeah. Kyle Wright, the former Buckhorn Buck, Major League leading 19th win last night for the Braves.
That's awesome.
In their win against the Nationals, and everybody kept wondering when will Kyle Wright burst onto the scene, be that guy that the Braves drafted him, be that high pick this year?
He's got a shot to win 20 games, probably get another couple of starts before the end of the regular season. Really hope that happens for him. It'll put him definitely in the mix to win the Cy Young in the National League. And John Smoltz looks like a prophet because he basically said, don't trade this guy. He's got A1 stuff. He can be a frontline starter in the major leagues, and he's done that. He's starting with what he did in the World Series a year ago, helping the Braves win it, and then carrying it over into this season.
All right, it's going to do it for our Tuesday show. We're going to crank it back up tomorrow morning. Don't forget, it's Wednesday tomorrow. That means Grady Greek will be up right out of the show. What is
somebody in the press box at Alabama asked me about Grady the Greek?
He's becoming famous.
Yes, he is.
The 5th grader prognosticator out of the gates tomorrow morning.